Chapter -5. Stay in the Car by Minnow. The colour drained from Sky's face. "Don't worry," I said in a low voice, "but don't move. You can't see we're up here. I've checked before." We all froze, hardly daring to breathe. Isla and Filthy got out of the car. "Don't tell anyone we've been here," said Isla. "Of course not," said Filthy. "I will not let the Blackburns get away with this," said Isla. "Once I get those kids back, I'm going to lock them up." "Absolutely," said Filthy. "I'll say the girl's become violent, that she's got brain damage," said Isla. "I'll make them wards of the state. No one will question me." "We can say they threatened the Blesso boys," said Filthy. "Yes," said Isla. "We'll say they're jealous because I need to have them at the centre. I'm going to finish what we started." "Don't worry," said Filthy. "No one will get in our way." "I'll do the talking," said Isla. "Fine by me," said Filthy. "Actually, you'd better stay in the car. I can't have anything go wrong." Filthy grumbled to himself as he got back into the car. We watched as Mum answered the front door in her dressing gown. We couldn't hear what was said, but after a few minutes Isla stormed back to her car and roared off. As soon as she'd gone, we clambered down the tree and raced inside. "Mum!" I yelled. "Uncle Eth!" shouted Frank. Mum and Dad came out of the kitchen. "The thieves are going to lock up Ben and Sky," I said. "Lock them up?" asked Mum. "We heard Isla," said Frank. "She said she's got to finish what she started and she's not going to let them go anywhere. She says she'll say whatever she needs to." "She's going to tell everyone that Sky's violent and we're both jealous of the Blessos," said Ben. "She wants to make us wards of the state, whatever that means." "We heard her," I said. "We were in the tree right above them." Mum and Dad looked worried. "And Minnow had a nightmare," said Frank, "a few weeks ago, and words were written in the sky." "What?" asked Dad. I looked down and said, "I saw something written in fireworks. Sky must die, in capitals. But I didn't want to say anything. It was just a dream, and it was before I met Sky or even knew her name." Sky sank to the ground and held her head in her hands. Then she started crying. "Oh dear," said Mum. "She's okay," said Ben. "It's just that Isla's... well, we think she's dangerous." Ben's face was white. "There's something wrong with her," he added. "Definitely," sobbed Sky, staring up at us through her tears. "Lock the front door, please, Frank," said Mum. "If the fake Baroness comes back, I don't want her walking into my home." "She's not going to kill anyone," said Dad, looking serious. "That was just one of Min's dreams. You have them all the time, don't you, Min?" I nodded, anxious that Sky wouldn't feel any worse than she already did. Mum and Dad have always been very good at staying calm. "We'd better have second breakfast," said Dad. "Hobbit style. Pancakes, I think. Come on." In case you don't know anything about hobbits, they love having first and second and even third breakfasts. Lots of morning teas as well. After we'd all had pancakes, everything felt a bit better. Mum made hot chocolate for everyone, and of course Jemima and Six kept sneaking things from the table. Six appeared once when Mum and Dad weren't looking. She had a massive chocolatey smile and gave me a huge smile with a thumbs up. After about an hour, just when we were all starting to feel calm, there was a loud knocking at the front door. Dad held his finger to his lips and gestured to me to take everyone in behind the wishing chair. From in there we could hear Mum and Dad talking to Isla through the closed door. "I want to come inside," Isla shrieked. "Open the door." "That's not possible," said Mum firmly. "We've all been vomiting," said Dad. "We might have to go to the hospital later," said Mum, "but we don't want to spread the infection. It's highly contagious." Dad coughed for about a minute. Finally, when he stopped, Isla said, "Don't be ridiculous. I need to take the walkers back to the centre. Now, The school rules say they're not allowed to spend time with non-orphans. I only let them come for one evening, not the whole weekend. I can keep them in quarantine at the centre." I heard Mum talking fast. "I'm not sure how much you know about this latest outbreak of gastro flu, but if the centre is infected, you'll have to shut it down. I really do think I should contact the hospital right now." Isla hated the fact that Mum was a doctor. "That won't be necessary," she said. "Look, we've been ill all night," said Dad. "The kids are tucked up in bed. Edie is a doctor, so they're in very good hands." Isla made a loud, angry noise. "Ugh! I know something's going on," she said. "If I find out that you're tricking me, I'll file a complaint." "Isla, we're not well," said Mum. "It's as simple as that. I want Ben and Sky home by tonight," said Isla. "That won't be possible," said Mum. "This illness takes at least 3 days to pass. I'll let you know when they're feeling better." Isla made another angry noise. "Ugh!" "Goodbye," said Mum. "We'll be in touch." When I heard Isla's car door slam, I felt like screaming for joy. We all did. Six and Jemima popped out of thin air and did somersaults up near the ceiling. Mum and Dad ran in to see us. "Let's go to Tiger Snake," said Dad. "Surf's up." I couldn't help squealing. It was too good. Chapter -4.4 The Time Again Game by Minnow. "Is it safe to go to Tiger Snake Island?" asked Mum. "What if Isla spots you, or the Overlord?" "It's nowhere near the school," said Dad. "Please," I said. "We can take the old car. No one will recognise us. And anyway, Isla and Filthy will be at school." Mum nodded. "I suppose it'd be good for Sky and Ben," she said. Frank gave Ben a quizzical look. Ben grinned at him. "Might skip it," said Frank. "I'm giving Ben the full tour." "You're serious?" asked Dad. "You can go play in the water," said Frank, "but we're going underground. Got to rescue some creatures. We'll do some surfing as well once we complete our mission." Dad rolled his eyes, turning to Sky. "Would you rather play computer games too?" he asked. "No way," said Sky. "I love surfing. We went with Dad all the time before, you know." Dad looked serious. "Let's go surfing in his honour." "Can we?" asked Sky. "Of course," said Dad. Six and Jemima zoomed past, barely able to contain their excitement. Dad looked up. "There are some weird drafts in here. I might have to check the roof." I couldn't look at Sky in case I laughed. "I'll get the surfboard," said Dad. "Yes," I said, hugging Sky. "You can use my new wetsuit. It's too big for me, but it'll fit you like a glove." "Minnie Minnow," said Frank, earning himself a punch from me. Frank didn't care. He was in paradise, off school with Ben and allowed to go underground all afternoon. Sky and I followed the boys into the church to play time game while we waited for Dad. Overhead I'd strung up blue, green and red curtains and some fairy lights. Down below were lots of bean bags. There was also a little fridge. It was a gamer's heaven. "Amazing," said Sky, plonking herself onto a bean bag. I loved her hazelnut eyes, so big and brown, just like real hazelnuts before they're shelled. "Want the full tour?" asked Frank. Sky nodded. "First you enter the church or go in through the museum." Frank's online character bowed low before Sky's character, who bowed back. "The Frankster is being very polite today," I said. "The Frankster is always polite," said Frank. "But sometimes he also has to be brutal." Ben laughed. "Of course," he said. "There are heaps of entrances all along the river," I said. "We've linked everything with tunnels. Some of the action happens under the ground, but you can also fly outside, as well as going under the water or back into the underground tunnels that way. Or you can go in through the waterfall," said Frank. "I'll show you." Sky tapped her controller, easily making her way through the main tunnels and into the dark passages. "You've got so many monsters," she said. "One of them is called the Eye of Moron," I said. "Guess who that's based on?" Sky laughed. "This is incredible," she said. "How did you make the game so believable?" "We're good at drawing," I said, "and our game engine lets you do some of the drawings, and then it bases everything on those." "We love drawing too," said Ben. Sky nodded, but then frowned. "Ew, gross," she said. "What are they?" "Dezgul," said Frank, moving his character out of the way. "They're mutant minotaurs, half human, half bull, but we added the tongue of a snake and a lion's mane." "We also have angels, ice witches, and wizards," I said, "all with magical powers." Another bunch of Dezgul appeared on the screen. Sky shuddered. "They remind me of Filthy," she said, "with those goopy eyes." "They're based on him," I said. "Well, his eyes and hands at least. Every time I see him, I imagine him as a filthy bull," said Frank, "with the mane and teeth of a lion." "Ha," said Ben. "Ugly." "Very ugly," I agreed. "After we made the first one, we put it into a maze because we based it on the ancient Minotaur, which also lived in a maze." "But it spawned loads more of itself," said Frank, "and they broke free, straight through the walls of the labyrinth." "But you didn't program it to do that?" asked Sky. "We programmed the game so that unexpected things can happen," said Frank. "Otherwise it gets boring. When they spawned, we killed heaps of them and made semi-zombies from some of the corpses." "Excellent," said Ben, clicking to avoid some of the monsters. "Why Dezgul?" asked Sky. "My dad was telling me that zombie is another word for ghoul," said Frank. Then he said his mate was a Dez." "What's a Dez?" asked Sky. "Someone with all this amazingness that they never use," I replied. "But we thought Des sounded more like this show-off at school," said Frank. "Oh, Desmond Goyle?" asked Ben. "Yes," said Frank. "He's always going on about being related to Goyle in Harry Potter," said Sky, "and he's such a bully." "Typical," I said. "His cousins aren't much better." "The Blessos," said Ben, looking grim. "They're the ones who beat me up when I first went to the centre." "They're actually dangerous," said Sky. Ben looked down. I could see that he hated us knowing that the Blessos had hit him. Changing the subject, I said, "Anyway, the word ghoul means ghoul, and then ghoul sounded like Goyle. So we called them Dezgoyles, and then that just morphed into Dezgul." "Grave-loving Dezgul," said Ben. "I love it." We all joined in and wound our way through the tunnels like champions. Frank suddenly stopped. "Oh no," he said, "it's escaped again." "What?" asked Sky. "The Eye of Moron's Heart," said Frank. "We added it into the game after Minnow kept seeing it in a nightmare." The heart was squelching across the screen with its filthy mouth and revolting teeth. "I hate having that nightmare," I said. "Last time the heart told me that my own heart would end up all diseased." "Gross," said Ben. Mimicking Isla, Sky said, "We have a heart for every child." Frank shuddered. "No heart for any child is more like it," said Frank. We added the vile heart to the game partly to be gruesome, but also somehow we half hoped that if we conquer things in the game, they might get fixed in real life. Sky nodded. "Hope so." "This week I saw the heart attacking 2 kids in one of my dreams," I said. "The kids were wearing T-shirts with Bo and Saw written on them, all in capitals. The dream reminded us of 2 characters in our game from ages ago," said Frank. "We put those initials into our game's log a few years back," I said. "It's really weird, because we didn't even know you then." "Why does Isla call you that?" asked Frank. Ben sighed. The thieves used the initials of all the kids at the centre," he said. They refuse to use our real names. Our middle names are Oliver and Athena, said Sky, looking worried. How could we be in your game? Asked Ben. Just a coincidence, I said. Maybe, said Ben. Either way, we think Isla's dangerous. Definitely, said Frank. Yeah, but not just ordinary dangerous, said Ben. She's fully. Plus your dreams, that gross heart, and Sky must die. It's terrifying. Frank and I both knew that Ben and Sky had more to say, but we didn't want to press them. Dad called out from the hallway, Come on, surf's up. Coming, I yelled.